Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Om Vakratunda Mahakaya Surya Koti Samaprabha Nirvignam Kuru Me Deva Sarva Karyeshu Sarvada. A warm welcome to all fellow seekers to today's session on Panchadasi. Panchadasi, the authoritative text on Advaita Vedanta, is authored by Swami Vidyaranya. The text contains 15 prakaranas and hence called Panchadasi. In last week's class, we learned the important Vedantic terms and concepts like Pramana, Prama, Prameya, and Prama, along with others. This week, our teacher, Dr. Timmappa Hegde sir, will be introducing the 7th prakarana, Tripti Dipa, whose verses we are going to study in detail. A couple of lines about Swami Vidyaranya before we delve into the class proper. In the 12th century, the Delhi Sultanate was making furious inroads into South India, vandalizing and looting our temples. Swami Vidyaranya made it his life's mission to establish a righteous rule based on Hindu Dharma. Through Harihara and Bukkaraya, Swami Vidyaranya was able to found and run the Vijayanagar Samrajya. Simultaneously, he mastered and authored several texts on Vedanta and was the Jagadguru of Sringeri Sharada Peetham. Hence, his life is an example that we can fully pursue a noble material goal and our scriptures simultaneously, practicing detachment in attachment. Now we enter the class proper. Over to you, Dr. Hegde, sir.
Thank you very much, Panaga, for giving us a nice introduction and also introduction about Shri Vidyaranya Swami. In all my previous classes, I have spoken very briefly, although at some time I had done some work on Vidyaranya Swami himself. My request is each class, I would like you to give a little more about Shri Vidyaranya Swami as part of your introduction, because there is so much that we can speak about this great teacher. Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Om. A profound namaskara to all our acharyas who have given us this grace, this opportunity to be able to understand this most profound text. Whenever we are studying a new text, we need to treat that with such reverence, because that is going to open our eyes to moksha or freedom. Friends, we are at a threshold where we have enough jnanam, but this jnanam has to become a nishta. And this is the hope that by our efforts through the study of this text, we will be able to transform to an indirect knowledge. I know the Gita, I know the Upanishads, but then I have not been transformed. We will fix our date as around Vijayadashami, that I will be able to live the Gita, live the Upanishads through my own understanding of this great text, the Tripti Dipa Prakaranam. Namah Shri Shankarananda Guru Padambu Janmani Savilasa Maha Moha Graha Grasaika Karmane Atmanam Chet Vijaniyāt Ayam Asmiti Purushaha Kim Icchan Kasya Kāmāya Shariram Anusvam Jvaret. Both these verses all of us should remember by heart. And this Upanishadic verse from the Brhadaaryanka Upanishad is going to be the basis for the Tripti Dipa. That means from this verse, we will have an elaboration with 297 verses by the great master Vidyaranya Swami. Swami Paramarthananda has one tradition. In each class, for the first few minutes, sometimes it can be longer also, he will do a thorough revision of whatever we have studied. And in all our classes, we begin with a recap of our previous class. It may look like repetitious, but these topics are so important. And because they are so important, if you have a notepad, I want you to note down these things These terminology I should be absolutely clear of. What is the sadhaka? What is the sadhana? What is the sadhyam or my goal? What is this siddha? Somebody asks you, what is this triangular format and binary format? All of us should be able to explain. This term, especially Paroksha and Aparoksha, keeps coming again and again. Let us have a clear understanding of these terms. There are three levels of reality. What is Pratibhasika? What is Vyavahara? What is Paramarthika? And then some terms like what is Avantara and Maha, Vakya. All these were discussed in the last class. What is our goal? Why are we studying all this? It is said if one person can attain to Purnatvam, if one person, like all of us, living in this body, can attain to Purnatvam, can attain to the infinite, it is all our potential. We have role models in the form of our Swamijis, Swami Paramarthananda in particular, who has attained to divinehood living in this body. Now, can this be our role model? Can this be our goal, that I have to accomplish in my life what one human being has achieved? Normally, in our life, we follow what is called a triangular format. And what is the triangular format? When I wake up, I suddenly realize I'm a limited man or a woman with so much to do and so much to accomplish. And each day begins with, I have still so much to do. And therefore, I pray to the Lord so that I get protection, I get the ability to do all this. And this is called the Jiva Jagat Ishvara triangle. A sadhaka, to achieve siddhyam, sadhyam. Sadhyam means to become infinite. I've asked you this question last time. Can a finite person ever become infinite? There is one phrase Swamiji uses. There is no corridor connecting the finite to the infinite. The finite will be finite, the infinite will be infinite. So what is our spiritual journey then? This understanding that all of us are a combination of the finite and the infinite. The infinite is the Atma Tattva, because of which you are able to listen, because of which I'm able to speak. Can we become aware of that conscious principle? That is the real me. That real me, for the time being, uses this body-mind complex to interact. But for various reasons, because of avarana and vikshepa, I begin to identify I'm this limited body-mind, and I suffer and live a life of a limited individual. That jump happens the moment we are discovered that there is only Atma, everything else is Anatma. This jump is to what is called the binary format. How do we reach the binary format? For that, we have our whole journey is Asato Ma Sad-Gamaya. We know this mantra so many times. Asat means that which appears to be real. Sat means that which is real. Now, what are those things which appear to be real? Pratibhasika and Vyavahara appear to be real. All of us have dream experiences. While we are in dream, it is impossible to say a dream is a dream in dream. We say it is a dream only when we wake up. Once we wake up into Vyavahara, we are able to say all my dream experiences are of a lower order of reality. And therefore, if anything happens to my dream body or my dream world, if I have made a lot of money in my dream world, or if I have been suffering from a terrible disease in my dream world, none of those experiences affect me. Why? Because as a waker, I am of a higher order of reality, and the higher order of reality cannot be affected by the lower order of reality. This is a wonderful rule. I know that the dream events cannot affect me when I come from Pratibhasika, from the dream world, to Vyavahara. All our teachers who have woken up speak to us with conviction. There is another level that we need to wake up. And the other level is to be able to declare myself as Ayam Atma Brahma, and this body mind is only Mithya, and that level is called Paramarthika. There is this verse from the Amrita Bindu Upanishad, which I would like all sincere seekers to remember. Because you will hear Swamiji quoting this again and again. For the time being, let it be into our memory. And once it is into our memory, the more we keep chanting, then we will have a nice definition of what is called Paramarthika. Na nirodho, na chotpatir, na baddha, na sadhaka, na mamukshu, na muktischa, ittesha paramartha. What is the definition of Paramartha, which we explained in the last class. In the last class, we also learned about how do I get knowledge. That was a very important class. It is recorded and uploaded on YouTube. And this fundamentals of how do we get knowledge. What do you mean by Paroksha Jnanam? What is Pratyaksha Jnanam? And what is Aparoksha Jnanam? Whenever I get information about something far away, for example, it may be Kailash or Manasarovar, I get some information on the net or from the books that I read. I have never been there. This indirect information, and I have a lot of information about something which I had never seen or experienced. That is called remote or Paroksha. It so happens that I get a chance to see them directly with my sense organs. There is something called Charan Sparsh. That means I can touch the feet of Lord Shiva, the base of Mount Kailash. Now, whenever I experience something with my own sense organs, that knowledge which was Paroksha or remote has now become Pratyaksha. Now, we are here to study our true nature, which is called Atma. This Atma, can it be seen? Can it be heard? Can it be touched? Can it be smelled? Can it be tasted? It does not, it is nirguna. And because it has no qualities, it is beyond na vacha nivartante aprapya manasa saha. It is something that is not accessible to my mind and sense organs. Why? It is not an object of my experience. It is aprameya. And when something is aprameya, it can never be an object of my experience. At the same time, it is very close to me. A teacher has to hold a mirror and help you to discover that what you're looking for is none other than your real self. That knowledge, which is not Paroksha, which is neither Pratyaksha, but it is very direct. Last time I introduced you to this question. If there are so many people in this room, I will ask you whether Panaga is there or not. And you will look around and say, yeah, yes, she is there. But if I ask you, are you there? To see, to know whether you are there, do you need your mind or sense organs? If you analyze this, this is what is called vichara. And I want you to analyze, this is the greatest of knowledge that one has to acquire. If you analyze and discover, when you say I am, when you say I, you mean I'm conscious. When you say am, you mean I'm existent. This knowledge is the real knowledge. That is why in the 13th chapter, Sri Krishna has says, Neyam yat tat pravakshami yat jnanam yat jnatva amritatvam ashnute. You will attain to immortality when you realize what is that knowledge about the awareness of I am. When you say, I am this body, I am the man, woman, immediately you have gone into vyavahara, you have gone into limitations. But when you say, I am, and pause, you are in Paramarthika. Now, when you wake up, when the Paramarthika jiva, which is my true nature, which is experienced by all of us when we are fast asleep, the moment we wake up, our mind wakes up. In fact, when the mind wakes up, we wake up. When the mind wakes up, I become a limited knower because of my mind. My mind, with my sense organs, experiences a world around me. And this limited knower who knows this world in front of me is called a pramata. The pramata has to use your mind and sense organs, which is known as pramanam. I see a wall, a door, and so many objects in this room. They are called prameya. When I get to know this is the wall, this is the staircase, this is the light, this is the fan, all these objects, that knowledge that I get is called prama. Who has helped me to get this knowledge? It is because of Atma. That Atma can never be an object of my experience, and that is called aprameya. Quiz for you. where is the word aprameya? And if you want to search for it in the second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. Right in the beginning of the second chapter, Sri Krishna brings out the word aprameya. And that aprameya is the real me who can never be an object of my experience. Now, if I have to know about my real nature, that is why we are studying Tripti Dipa Prakarana. Now, when I want to know myself, I know I cannot use my sense organs. So last time we studied about the 6 methods of getting knowledge. And one of those pramanams was called Shabda Pramanam. Now, all of us go to medical school, engineering school, and all forms of schools where we get through Shabda Pramanam, through the words of the teacher, through the words of the textbooks, we will get some knowledge. This can be classified into 2, Vaidika and Laukika. All worldly knowledge comes to us from Laukika. The Vedic knowledge comes from Vaidika. In the Vaidika portion, 3/4 of them are called Veda Purva, and about 1/4 is called Veda Anta. Veda Anta is the philosophical part which really talks about a true nature. The Veda Purva is various preparatory sadhanas, various forms of rituals, karmas, upasanas that help the mind to become refined enough to be able to understand Veda Anta. And fortunately, although we have not gone through Veda Purva, through various understanding of the Gita, we have got that sort of yogyata now to be able to study Veda Anta. We are now studying an advanced spiritual text based on the Upanishads, based on one verse of the Brhadaaryanka Upanishad, a magnum opus called Tripti Dipa. And in these words, we will be studying verses based on Veda Anta. Now, the Veda Anta has got 2 forms of Vakyas. One Vakya is called Maha Vakya, the other is called Avantara Vakya. Now, as we go through Tripti Dipa, this will come again and again. Again and again, you will be touching on what is Maha Vakya and Avantara Vakya. Now, whenever you hear verses like this, Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam, Brahma, Yo Veda Nihitam, Guhaya. So when you hear these verses which give a lot of descriptions about Brahman, these are indirect descriptions. That means now I know Brahman is infinite, Brahman is Satyam, Jnanam, and so on. These are called intermediate verses or Avantara Vakya. And once the student has got enough knowledge and once the student is enoughly prepared, it is like the teacher, the Dashama story. The Dashama story in Tripti Dipa comes 3 times. That is why the Dashama story, we should be able to teach others in a way that the teaching comes to you. Make use of this Dashama story. Make use of the teaching of the Dashama story to family members who will be willing to learn, so that the teaching of the various 7 stages of our own understanding will come to you. In the Dashama story, there is a moment where the teacher comes and says, Dashamaha Asti, the 10th man is there. And all the students are very relieved. Until then, they were so anxious that the Dashamaha Nasti, the 10th man is not there, and they were so sorrowful. But the teacher comes and assures them, Dashamaha Asti. That scriptural text, that words from the Guru, which says Brahman exists, is the same as Avantara Vakya, Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam. So all the boys know the 10th man is there, we are saved, we have no problem. So that is a very reassuring verse. But then none of them know who is the 10th man. Now, to help us to discover the 10th man, the teacher has to do a form of a prakriya. The teacher cannot suddenly say, you are the 10th man. The students won't agree about that. The teacher has to do count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, have you discovered 9 persons? Have you counted all of them? Now count the 10th person as Tattvammasi. You are that 10th man. Now, when you discover that the 10th man is none other than you, that is when you accept the teacher's Mahavakya and you declare to yourself, Aham Brahmasmi. So that is the role of Vidyaranya Swami. Swami Paramarthananda, Swami Tadatmananda will handhold us with all these verses to help us to move from Paroksha Jnanam to Aparoksha Jnanam. Today we heard one presentation, which was recorded for those who are listening. Now, how much have we understood this? We will be able to understand these only if we do our own homework. Otherwise, we will still remain in Paroksha Jnanam. And that is why my request to all of you is, many of you in the course of today or tomorrow, you will be allotted these verses. Suddenly, when you get one verse that you need to present, when you become a teacher, then you will realize the difficulty that the teacher has. And in the same process, because the teacher has to use Shabda Pramanam, whether you are saying Dashamaha, Asti or Tatutvam Asi, both are Shabda Pramanam only. Through Shabda Pramanam only, you get Paroksha Jnanam that the 10th man is there or Brahman is there. Through Shabda Pramanam alone, you will discover that that person that you are looking for, that infinite, that spiritual awakening is none other than the consciousness in me. Believe me, it may come as an anticlimax, but the way it is going to be delivered, it is going to be such that by that time, unconsciously, you will attain to Tripti, you will attain to Purnatvam, and anything that happens in the world will not affect you. In the last class, we studied this beautiful Shanti Pata, and this will be, I will chant it for you. Om Sahana Vavatu, Sahana Bhunaktu, Saha Viryam Karavavahai, Tejasvina Vadita Mastuma Vidvishavahai, Om Shanti Shanti Shantihi. This is a Shanti Pata. A Shanti Pata is chanted by the teacher and the student before any study. And of all the Shanti Patas, one Shanti Pata that is chanted before Vedantic studies is this particular Shanti Pata. And in this particular Shanti Pata, it has got an ordinary meaning and it has got a cryptic meaning. The cryptic meaning has been given to us by Swami Paramarthika. When I first looked at his explanation that there are 4 boons that come to us in this chapter, and the 4 boons are Jnana-prāpti, Jnana-nishta, Prayatna, and Shraddha. Prayatna and Shraddha were equal. How does this prayer help me to get Jnana-prāpti and Jnana-nishta? The opening words is Om Sahana Vavatu. O Lord, protect us. Swamiji explains, what is the highest form of protection anybody can have? It is not any form of a security team. However great your security is, the more security you have, sometimes you will feel very insecure. The highest form of security is the realization that I don't need security. Why? Because I'm no longer this body. I'm no longer my possessions. I no longer have any family or any job to protect, because I am Atma Brahma, and this comes through Brahma Vidya. When you realize this, then you realize that I don't need protection because I am infinite. And who can ever affect the infinite? And that is why Sahana Bhavatu means, oh Lord, please give me that knowledge which helps me to realize I do not need any protection. Once you get this knowledge, then what do? Bhunaktu. Bhunaktu means to relish. For the rest of your life, you live as a Jivan Muktaha. You live like a free person, because now you know your true nature and that you're only playing a drama with the body of a man or a woman, young or old. And remember, all this is just a drama. And this is that beautiful Shanti Pata of Krishna Yajurveda. Before we proceed, we are now entering into Tripti Dipa. And Tripti Dipa is only for advanced students of Vedanta. All of you. And at some stage, if I meet you, I'm going to ask you, what are these 5 capsules? And you will get 100% marks if you're able to remember all these 5. The first is my true nature. I am of the nature of eternal and all-pervading consciousness. In fact, you don't need I am Atma Brahma to meditate. I want you to use these 5 capsules in your prayer room to sit and meditate. I am of the nature of eternal and all pervading consciousness. And realize I am the only source of permanent peace, security, and happiness. My food, my music, my family members are, not the permanent source of peace, security, and happiness, but this Atma Tattva is the only permanent source of peace, security, and happiness. Then you go a little further. Because of the Atma Tattva, this body is alive. I have enlivened this body. And if you want to say, through this body, I'm going to experience this whole universe. Or because of me, as Atma, Atma enlivens this body. And through this enlivened body, I'm able to experience this whole world. Now, if this understanding is clear, an advanced student will go to the next step. And the next step, you're going to say something even more. You will say, as Atma, I enliven this body, and also I give existence to the whole world. That means, what are you saying in English? Mayeva sakalam jatam, my sarvam pratishtitam, my sarvam layam yatam, that Brahma dvayam asmayam aham. For those who know, these are Maha Vakyas from which Upanishad? From the Kaivalya Upanishad. So the third capsule is from Kaivalya Upanishad, which says, I enliven this body and I give existence to the whole world. Now, the more I understand I am Atma, the more I understand, Sahana Vavatu, I am not going to be affected by anything that happens to this body or to the world around me, or to the 5 anatmas that I value: my body, my mind, my family, my possessions, my profession, and my possessions. These 6 things are all anatma. Anything that happens to any of these things cannot affect me, because I am, I'm so rich, I'm so full, I'm so complete. And therefore, if anything happens, I'm able to tamponade, I'm able to have that titiksha, I'm able to handle this, because anatma will go through various variations. Nothing is going to be stable as far as anatma. Remember, the 4th capsule, which will give you 80% marks if you remember, that I will never be affected by anything that happens to the material, to this material world, my body or my mind. And the final principle is to remember, if I remember this, you see yourself as Dakshina Murti putting your leg on Apasmara. If I forget this, then Apasmara will make me get into Avarana. I don't know my true nature, then I have Vikshepa, then I have identified with my body, then I become a Karta, Bhokta, Samsara will be there. But if I remember, then immediately you are Dakshina Murti. Ishvara Guru Atmeti Murti Bheda Vibhagine Yomavat Vyapta Dehaya Dakshina Murtaye Namaha. Remember that. Remember these 5 capsules. If you remember these 5 capsules, you get 100% marks. What is our job? Why are we studying Tripti Dipa Prakaranam? I want to convert Jnanam to Jnana Nishta. What stage is Jnana? The 4th stage. In the 4th stage, what kind of knowledge I have about Brahman? Paroksha Jnana. In the 5th stage, what happens? I have Aparoksha Jnana. I realize that the one I'm looking for is none other than myself. Then I do Kritagnate to my Guru. Then I can say even goodbye to my Guru. I can say bye, because now I have got, now there is Śloka Nivritti and Tripti-prāpti. We have given ourselves a 4-month program. That means July, August, September. Actually, only 3 months program. That means in the first week of October, we have a chance to revise this under a great teacher, Swami Anubhavananda, who's written this book many years ago. That means his own commentary on Panchadasi. He has offered to teach us this, and this will be in a famous Kshetra, Murudeshwara, and I request you all to mark your time. And this is a little sightseeing of that place around. Coming to what is Panchadasi. Panchadasi means 15. It is a form of a cool illumination, divided into 15 chapters. What are the 15 chapters? Sat Chit Ananda. The first 5 chapters talk about Viveka, about Sat, Asat, Viveka. And that is why it is called Viveka Prakaranam. The next 5 chapters, like Tripti Dipa, all chapters begin or end with Dipa, like Tripti Dipa, is about illumination. And the last 5 chapters talk about Ananda. Now, to tell you, Tripti Dipa is considered the longest and the best of all. And from now, we start our real work on the Tripti Dipa. In the next few minutes, I will give you an introduction. Good. Now, before we start any new text, like it is you go to a bookstore and you buy a book, or before you buy a book, you turn to the last page to see like who is the author, or somewhere you will get a synopsis of the book. What is our objective? I want to know something about this topic. So all of us know about this. And my question to you is, what is this Anubandha Chatustaya? That means Chatustaya means 4. What are the 4 things that I should know before I study any particular text? Think, and I want your answer. The 4 things are this. Who is the Adhikari? Who is eligible to study Tripti Dipa? Am I eligible or not? What is the Vishaya? What is the topic? What is the benefit that I'm going to get? And what is the Sambandha? What is the relationship between the topic and the benefit that I'm going to get? Certainly, all of us are Adhikari. Adhikari means I am eligible to study Tripti Dipa because I have gone through Bhagavad Gita, I have gone through Upanishad, I've spent more than 2 years. So therefore, our teacher declares that all of us have the Adhikari. What is the Vishaya? The Vishaya here is about my true nature. I'm here to understand. And if you want to know in Tripti Dipa, I want to get from Paroksha Jnanam to Aparoksha Jnanam. And what is the Prayojan? Tripti. So let us see what is the details about this Anubandha Chatustaya. Now, here it will say in this particular verse, Adhikari, those with Tivra Mukshutvam, those who have served the Guru, those who have done some form of Karma Yoga and Upasana Yoga. And I will declare that all of us who have been studying are all Adhikaris who are eligible to study. What is the discrimination? What is the Vishaya? I want to know Asato Ma Sat, from the unreal to the real. What is the Prayojan? Remember, I'm here moving from the 4th state of Paroksha Jnanam to Aparoksha Jnanam. The teacher uses the word Sukha Bodhaya. Now, if you listen to Swami Tadatmananda, he will say, you have to look at other Upanishadic texts to be able to see the glory of Panchadasi. Even Swami Paramarthananda, he says it's such a delight to teach Panchadasi because everything is so systematic and so organized. Vidyaranya Swami begins by using the word Sukha Bodhaya. Sukha Bodhaya means I will do my very best to give you the teaching in a clear, systematic, easily graspable manner. And how is that possible? Now, again and again, you will see a person called Purva Pakshi. A Purva Pakshi is a person who will come and say, I have a doubt. And the Purva Pakshi will give you a doubt. And then Vidyaranya will answer. So at every stage, you will have doubts and answering of doubts. And that is how our study will go on. Let me remind you, this is a verse that we have to remember. Atmanam ched vijnaniyāt Ayam Asmi Purusha Kim Icchan Kasya Kāmāya Shariram Anuswam Jvaret. So the entire Tripti Dipa, 298 verses. So after the first verse is this, 297 verses will be elaborating on this particular verse. So the word Purusha, for some reason, this is called a Chandas Prayog. Chandas means the Upanishadic style of usage. And therefore, although it is Purusha, we emphasize here saying Purusha. Purusha here means Jivatma. I, all of us, should know Paramatma. How should I know? Right now, I know I am this body. I know I am a man. I know my age. I know my location. I know my education. I know my work. About my body, I am clear. But can you have that certain clarity that I am Atma? The first line says, Atmanam ched vijnaniyāt. Chet means suppose. There is a doubt. Let us not have this doubt. Let us have nishta. I will know. Now the teacher is saying in the first line, what happens supposing the Purusha gets to know he is Jivatma? Then there will be no more struggle with the body. He will develop Tripti. He will not desire any object in the world. So there are two lines. The first line will say, Atmanam ched vijaniyat. Ayam Asmiti Purusha. The first line talks about Maha Vakya, that I should know my true nature. The second line says, what is the benefit of it? Kim Icchan. Once I know I am infinite, what will I desire for? Now, if I am in a room full of currency, lots of money is there, but all of them are counterfeit. Although there is money, I'm not going to value it, because now when you are from a Paramarthika, any wealth in the Vyavahara becomes relatively counterfeit, and therefore you will not have any desire. Secondly, Kasya Kāmāya, for whose sake? Once a person understands that he is not this limited jiva who wants so many things, but he is none other than Paramatma, then there is no one in me to desire. So it's a double treatment. There are no objects to be desired. There is no person who desires. And therefore what? Nandati, Nandati, Nandati eva, I celebrate my being. From verses 23 to 27, this is the first time we have this Sapta Avastha. The Dashama story is told for the first time. It will come again for the second time. It will come again for the third time, so that you are very clear what are the 7 stages of a spiritual evolution. What are the 7 stages? First stage is Ajnanam, or unexpressed Brahman ignorance. I do not know anything about Brahman, but I am in a state of ignorance is bliss. Second stage, I know something about Brahman, but I don't know what is Brahman. The third stage is when I do not know what is Brahman, then I identify with my body, and my body has various limitations and problems. And this is called Vikshepaha. And most of us are in the stage of Vikshepaha, or perhaps in the 4th stage, because thanks to the Guru and Shastras, we now know Brahman is there. Brahman is Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam is there. Now, whenever the teacher has given us Paroksha Jnanam of Brahman, one form of Avarana is removed, and that is called Sattva Avarana. That means Brahman existence has been removed. That Avarana of Brahman existence has been removed by Paroksha Jnanam. That means I have one level of understanding. When I move to the next state and the teacher says that you are that, then I realize that the consciousness in me is none other than the 10th man, or the one that I'm looking for. Then I'm able to experience my consciousness. That is called Bhana Avaranam. This is the first time I'm introducing these terms. Don't be worried if you don't understand, because the next few months will be working on from Paroksha Jnanam to Aparoksha Jnanam. When you get Paroksha Jnanam, what happens? The Sattva Avaranam of Brahman is gone. When you get Aparoksha Jnanam, when you realize you are that, the Bhana Avaranam. That means the experience of my consciousness. Can you experience silence for a moment? Can you be sensitive to all the sounds that you hear? Who is the one who is listening to all these sounds? Now, that is called Bhanam. The Avaranam, the covering on the one who is listening, has been removed. And when the teacher says that one who is the experiencer, the Sakshi, the witness, that is the real you. That is called Aparokshatvam. And once you realize, and once you are anchored into that state, then what happens? Like in the Dashama story, the students are celebrating, they are happy, all their sorrow is gone, and Tripti will come. But then let us go a little slow. See, each word, why is this so many 297 verses? Each word, who is this Purusha? Now, I know I am. Who is this Purusha? That is where all our Tattva Bodha knowledge comes. Now, in Tattva Bodha, we speak of the original consciousness, which is Atma, reflected consciousness, which is my body-mind complex, which is the reflecting media, and the ego, which is the reflected consciousness. There are two terms that will come again and again in Tripti Dipa. One is called Kutastha. Kutastha, whenever the word Kutastha, Kutastham Achalam Dhruvam. Kutastha means my original consciousness. Chidabhasa means reflected consciousness. So you have to intertwine, and we will go through. And then when you say, there are some terms called Vachyartha and Lakshartha. As we go through, or, for the timing today, the terminology class. Vachyartha means the regular meaning of the word is called Vachyartha. Now, sometimes the Vachyartha does not make sense. Now, so then you have to do what is called Lakshyartha. Lakshyartha is a certain contextual meaning. So there is a certain understanding that we do all the time. So whenever we have to, when Jivatma is being equated to Paramatma, the teacher will teach you what is Mukhyartha or Vachyartha and what is Lakshyartha or Gaunartha. So sometimes these terms are repeated again and again. So that is from verse 3 to 22. Then Atmanam Jnaniyāt. That means I have to know I am Atma Brahma. And how do we know that? Vidyaranya Swami will help us to analyze this through what is called Maha Vakya Vichara. Remember, in the 10th man story, the teacher does a certain prakriya, a technique, by saying 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, you're the 10th man. That is called a prakriya. That prakriya here is called vichara. Just by telling you Tattvamasi, you do not attain to Mahavakya. You will have to do vichara of this. So what is this vichara that we need to do? And that Vidyaranya uses Vakya Vritti. Vakya Vritti is a very nice work. We have not studied that, but Vidyaranya uses many verses of Vakya Vritti to be able to explain to us. That is the prakriya, to be able to get that Atmanam Jnaniyāt. The Purusha should know who the Atma is. So this will come with the help of Vakya Vritti. Remember, another word by Vidyaranya Swami. Now, there is one term called Vijnaniyāt. Now, Vidyaranya spends, can you see? 37 verses elaborating on Jnanam to Jnana Nishta, from Paroksha to Aparoksha. Now, this is the great shift. That is why I would like you to be patient in this study about Vakya, about how do we move from Jnaniyāt to Vijnaniyāt. Now, Vidyaranya will do it in a most brilliant way. Remember, in the last class, I spoke to you about a father training his son to chant various Vedic verses. And then he goes to the school program where the son is standing in front of him. All the other boys and girls are there, and all of them are chanting loudly. And the father is straining his ears to find out his son's voice. He can hear, he can see the son opening his mouth and chanting at the top of his voice, but then it is drowned by all other voices. Now, Vidyaranya Swami says, so too, all of us have got Jnanam, have got Paroksha Jnanam. But why it is not Aparoksha? There are certain obstacles. I have got Jnanam, but the Jnanam is called Sa-Pratibandha Jnanam. Sa means along with Pratibandha, along with obstacles. Vidyaranya makes an analysis. The obstacles can be at an interpretation level. That means at the level of a pramanam. Our scriptures itself can be interpreted in Dvaita, Vishishta Dvaita, and Advaita. And therefore, how to interpret will be the first level. Second is called Prameya Asambhavana. When somebody tells you, you are Brahman, you are infinite, because of the conviction with which the teacher says, you may keep quiet. But otherwise you will say, he's speaking nonsense. How can I be infinite? I know my own limitations. This is called prameya asambhavana. How can I be infinite? I have got a date of birth. I have so much limited knowledge. I know myself more than anybody else. And therefore, I have a logical obstacle. So the teacher has to logically convince you that there is something of the infinite in you. And that is to remove the second obstacle. The third and the most important. And if there are 37 verses, 36 verses or 35 verses will be dealing with this problem of viparita bhavana. Viparita means unreal feeling. What is the unreal feeling? Although I am Atma Brahma, I am infinite, for years and for so many lives, I have experienced, I've been brought up as a limited individual. So there is a habitual identification. Swamiji says, whenever you go abroad in those countries where the driving is instead of right to the left. Now, instead of opening the passenger door, you open the door on the driver's seat and suddenly you realize, oh my God, the steering is on this side. You may be in the country for some time, but invariably you make that mistake. Why? Because we are so habituated to our style of driving and walking that we make that mistake. So this is called a viparita bhavana, and viparita bhavana takes time. And Vidyaranya helps us to understand, don't worry, even though you are Atma, it will take you some time to be able to sahanau bunaktu. Although the knowledge has been given to you to be and experience this Jivan Mukta, it takes some time. So therefore, how is these obstacles removed? The pramana asambhavana is removed by shravanam. Prameya asambhavanam is removed by mananam. And viparita bhavana is removed by nidityasanam. And Vidyaranya gives a further classification of nidityasanam. One form of nidityasanam is when you sit and meditate, and when you go into nirvikalpaka samadhi. Here he gives emphasis to Brahma Abhyasa Nidithyasana. What is Brahma Abhyasa? Very nicely brought about in this verse of Yoga Vasishta, which is brought out in Tripti Dipa also. And I have quoted this many times. Tat chintanam, tat katanam, anyon tat prabodhanam, etad ekam paratvam cha brahmabhyas vidur buddhaha. That means exactly what we are doing. Wherever possible, whenever possible, with your friends and with others, bring in this discussion about your own understanding. And those moments will be nidityasanam. Ayam Asmi. So each of these words are, taken care of. Now there is something called Ayam Aparoksha all the time. That means the 10th man knew he was the 10th. The 10th man was the 10th man, but it was unrecognized that he was the 10th man. And this what he calls is unrecognized proximity. And then there is a recognized proximity. So you are already that. This unrecognized proximity is because of ignorance. The 10th man did not know he was the 10th man until the teacher told him. This recognized proximity is called jnata aparokshatva. This will come. These are terms that we need to remember. I've already spoken to you enough about Kim Icchan. Now, why is Sri Vidyaranya coming again and again to Kim Icchan? Now, supposing you have attained to Purnatvam, you have attained to Tripti, you have got enlightenment. And once you are enlightened, you wake up in the morning and you now know you are an enlightened being. Are you continuing to sleep in bed? Or will you continue to live a normal life? A certain Zen master was asked, how was your life before enlightenment and how was your life after enlightenment? He says, before enlightenment, I used to chop wood and I used to draw water from the well. And what happens after enlightenment? He says, after enlightenment, I chop wood, I draw water from the well. What is the difference? Before enlightenment, I used to chop wood and I used to draw water from the well in order to attain something. Most of our work we do to earn a living or to do for something. Now I have no need for anything, but I still do because it is my role. And I may have desires. That is exactly my point I was trying to bring. A jnani, although he's purna, he has nothing to accomplish, he has nothing to do, but he still keeps himself very busy for one reason. One, he's a role model. He cannot keep sleeping after he's become a jnani. Second is, all of us have some vasanas. And because of our vasanas, some of us would be sattvic, some of us would be rajasic, some maybe even tamasic, maybe less. But then some vasanas are there. And this vasanas will drive a person to accomplish something. But remember, these vasanas will not be for fulfillment, but it will be out of fulfillment. So that is how a jnani will function. A jnani has nothing to accomplish. He has nothing to struggle with his body. And therefore, all the problems at the body level will become reduced, or it will be minimized, because now you realize your body will go through its prarabdha, but it is not going to affect you. You're going to see your body as if it is some body. Shariram anuswam jvaret. And finally, what do we attain? We attain to Tripti, or we attain to Purnatvam. In all our classes, we will always have my favorite Gita verse. And if there is one favorite Gita verse which is very relevant to this topic, and this is the answer to Sri Arjuna's question, Sthita Prajna Ka Bhasha. Who is a Sthita Prajna? How does he talk? How does he sit? Kim Prabhasita, Kim Asita Vrajeta Kim. So this was the curiosity. What happens when a person becomes enlightened? And Sri Krishna gives the answer, which is very close to what we have studied in Tripti Dipa. Sri Krishna says, Prajahati yada kaman sarvan partha manogata atmanevatmana tushtaha sthita prajna tadochate. Tadochate, such a person is called as sthita prajna, who is in a state of tripti. Why is in a state of tripti? He has discovered Atmanam ched jäniyāt. He now knows he is Atma. He is Purna. For such a Purna, Kim Icchan Kasya Kāmāya, there is no more desire. Sarvan Kaman Manogata. Manogata means the mind will generate so many kamas. All those kamas, what happens to such a person? Prajahati, they literally completely drop off. That means they are no longer binding. They are no longer binding for a person. What kind of a person? For what kind of a person? For a person who's of the who has attained to Atmaneva Atmana Tushta. This is my favorite story. A certain Zen master was asked, what is your greatest accomplishment? And he says, here I am alone with myself. When you are by yourself, if you are able to experience Purnatvam, then you are Atmaneva Atmana Tushta. I have nothing to do. I have nowhere to go. I am already that which I can possibly be. With this, I conclude the introduction to Tripti Dipa. Friends, these are some books that will help us. There is a wonderful book by Swami Tejomayananda, which is available on Amazon. You can also check on Amazon Swami Anubhavanandaji's book on Panchadasi, Tripti Dipa Prakaranam, and these will give you the text and the meaning. But if you want a deeper meaning, please listen to Swami Paramarthananda's talk. He has spoken on all verses, and this is available on Yoga Malika. There is another great teacher, also from the same school of Swami Dayananda, Swami Tadatmananda. My profound respects to him. You can visit his website, arshabodha.org. His talks are also there on Spotify. You can download it on your phone and you can listen to it whenever you want. But then you can go to his website and listen it directly from his website. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamadachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti. Panaga, please.
Thank you very much, Dr. Hegde, sir, for that comprehensive yet simple introduction to Tripti Dipa. You have made the purpose of the study very clear. That is to understand and affirm that I am not this limited body, but of the nature of the eternal, all-pervading consciousness. In the next class, we will enter the text proper and study verses 1 to 17. Please log in on 31st July, Monday at 6:45 p.m. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.